When free isn't really free. Subscription resources versus OER. So what is open access and why is it important? Open access, or OA literature, is online, free of charge, and free of most copyright and licensing restrictions. In the world of scholarly publishing, this is a big change from the ways scholarly communication has historically worked. This graphic lays out the challenges to scholarly communications under a traditional publishing model. The entire process from beginning to end takes years, usually 2 or 3, but sometimes as many as 8 or 10. Scholarship is hidden behind paywalls, which means that students and researchers that aren't affiliated with large research institutions often don't have access. This means that they can't view, use, or build upon this research to advance their fields. This means that you, as a scholar, can't share your work with the people who might most benefit from it. And sometimes it even means that research that is funded with public, taxpayer money is not shared publicly with the taxpayers that funded it. With an open access publishing model, however, the process looks much different. Each stage of the process is more open, which means there is greater potential for equity of access and use, as well as collaboration. This process is often faster than the traditional publishing model because researchers can distribute preprints or work that is still in progress and get feedback from an entire community of scholars in their field before they go to print. And, most importantly for the Wilson community, it means you, your faculty and staff colleagues, and your students have greater access to works. As you know, Wilson is a small college, and the library accordingly has a small budget. We simply do not have the hundreds of thousands of dollars that it takes to purchase access to all the journal subscriptions that our community ideally needs or wants. The more that we support open research and open access publishing, the more opportunity we will have to access high-quality, scholarly research when and where we need it. Related to open access is the idea of open education and OER, open educational resources. These are educational materials that can be freely downloaded, edited, and shared to better serve all students. Similarly to open access scholarly publishing, OER allows for greater collaboration, adaptability, and affordability than traditional textbooks. To understand why OER is so important, imagine the following common, real-life scenarios. You find a traditional textbook you'd like to use for your class, but it isn't perfect. You'd really like to be able to rewrite some of the chapters and combine it with a few other resources you have on hand. Under traditional copyright policies, this is not permissible. With OER, on the other hand, you have full legal permission to combine original open content with your revisions to create something new and unique to your class and your students. Scenario 2. Your students aren't completing the readings from your traditional textbook. You take a poll and find out that 1/3 of the students in your class have not purchased the textbook. You are frustrated. This book is required for the class. Why didn't they buy it? They might not tell you, but a recent survey from the Wisconsin Hope Lab shows that 36% of college students are food and/or housing insecure, and a full 9% of college students are homeless. A $300 textbook is the equivalent of my personal grocery budget for a month. And I'm a middle-aged professional shopping for 2 and often purchasing high-quality and expensive organic foods. For an average college student, that $300 may be the equivalent of 3 months of groceries or 1 month of rent. Given the choice between food and a textbook, it is no surprise that our students are choosing survival. Providing OER for free would leave our already burdened students with one fewer thing to worry about. At this point, you may be thinking, but the library has access to a ton of scholarly information for free. Isn't that open access? Can't we just use that? Isn't it all the same? It's important to remember that while the resources that the library subscribes to seem free to you and your students, the library has to pay to subscribe to them. The average annual subscription cost for one journal title is anywhere from $500 to $1,000. An entire database of journals can be anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 or more per year. Even more importantly, these library resources are not available to the general public. Once you or your students leave the college environment, they will no longer have access to any of that scholarship. Additionally, library resources do not come with the full range of legal permissions that open resources do. This, again, is one of the most important benefits of open access publishing as a whole, and of open educational resources in particular. You may already know that you cannot make and distribute photocopies of pages from a traditional textbook because of copyright restrictions. These same restrictions usually apply to online library resources as well. If you download a PDF from a library database, you usually cannot legally post that PDF to your Canvas page or otherwise distribute it to your students. Many faculty members are unaware of these restrictions and do these things anyway, but it is usually strictly prohibited. And, perhaps more importantly, you cannot legally remix or revise the content you find in the library's subscription databases. If you decide to use an ebook from a library database as your course textbook, you've made a good start. At the very least, your students will have access to that ebook for free so long as they remain students at the college and have valid Wilson login credentials. However, they will likely have restrictions on how much of that ebook they can save, print, or copy. And neither they nor you will be legally permitted to adapt parts of that textbook, to revise, remix, or expand them into new and potentially better and more useful works. The 5 R's referenced in the chart shown here stand for retain, reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute. These are all things that you can do with OER materials that you typically can't do with resources that come from library databases. I hope you'll consider adopting open resources for your courses here at Wilson, and I am available to help you find and adapt whatever you need to give your students their best chance at success during their time here and beyond.